patience is probably top of the line. We also need to mix in there some firmness and boundaries as well.
I feel like what you
Firm
just
but
said.
fair.
Oh, God, firm to fair. Yeah,
Man,
that's perfect.
firm but fair, like Joe Cortez used to say. Joe Cortez, he was a Hall of Fame boxing referee. He always give the instruction. He said, I'm firm but fair."
Mm-hmm.
And to the point about giving the instruction, another thing that I always have to say to myself, my kids aren't necessarily testing me. I can't take
Mm.
it personal. They just exploring, especially my son, him being 6 years old. My wife was just saying to me earlier today, all he want to do is just go outside. For me, if I don't want to be bothered, now I'm looking at it like he's trying to inconvenience me, like he's being meddlesome. He ain't being meddlesome. He just want to go outside. It's a
Crazy,
beautiful
yeah.
day. The sky is blue. The sun is out. The birds are chirping. He wants to go outside, ride a scooter, ride a bike with one of the neighbors. It's not a personal attack. It's not an attempt to throw a monkey wrench in whatever program I have going on for the day. All he knows is it's a beautiful day outside. He wants to experience it. So that's another thing that I had to learn too, is not to take these things personal,
Mm.
and to give them grace. And I thought that Tone said something that was extremely important, that grace and not making projections, because oftentimes as parents, we just feel like they're testing us, but such is not the case. They're just being active. They're just trying to burn off energy. They're moving off impulse.
Mm-hmm.
They're not moving with the same level of consciousness that we are.
Right.
And also to your point, I'm about giving certain instruction. We also have to take this into account. Most of us have 20 and 30 and
Yeah,
40 years more experience than
Yeah.
our children do.
drop that
So things
expectation.
that come naturally to us at this point, these are things that have been grained in us God knows how many decades ago. And this is
Mm,
brand new to them.
that's
So
a
Yep.
you're
good
going to have
point.
to remind them. Like, say to my son all the time, I find myself getting frustrated. So, yo, how many times I got to tell you to clean up after yourself? But I'm 37. He's 6 years old.
That's a good point. Oh, I can't wait to use that point.
Yeah, it's that natural expectation for them to know what to do rather than,
Right.
showing them what to do. It's yeah.
We expect them to behave as though they have the experience that we do,
Yo.
but they don't. So you just gotta give them grace and not take things personally.
Children test their moms to a level you would not believe. I'll tell you that as a mother. But a dad can go, oi, and it's finished. A mom can go, oi, and they go, yeah, yeah, whatever. They're climbing on your back and they're pulling your hair. But when daddy says it, or a masculine energy says it, totally different response.
Yeah, for sure. I can say that with my experience too, just with my kids, especially with my son. Whenever things are getting testy in the morning, we trying to get out the door. I ask him, and I try to be real firm with him. I ask him, hey, what type of day you want to have today? You make the decision right now, and I'll accommodate you. Because if you want it to be a rough morning, then it could be a rough morning. Otherwise, it could be smooth. We could be the best of friends. We could be chummy. Everything could be smooth, hunky dory. But you let me know, like how we playing this today. And then more often than not, when I ask him that question, he's like, "Yeah, I want to have a good day."
Yeah, I'm taking that. I'm taking that and using that.
Put that in your toolkit.
Yeah.
That's a good one right there, right?
And McQueen, well, what about you? The relationship with your parents and the way that it affects or has affected your well-being today.
It's actually grown over time.
Mm-hmm.
I would say, like retrospectively, I think back at the time growing up, because my parents were married. They were, well, not high school sweethearts, because they didn't go to the same high school, but they lived in the same building. But they were together since they were teenagers. Got married young. They were together up until my father's passing in 2000. And I can say I picked up things from both of them, just by watching them, observing them. My father, he was a person that he walked around with a lot of respect, a lot of dignity, very personable. Everywhere we go, it seemed like he had friends there. We go to the gas station, We just pumping gas. Next thing I know, we sitting there for another 10 minutes because he's having a conversation with the clerk about something. He was that type of guy. With our family, and I mean like our whole family, extended family, aunts, uncles, in-laws, all that stuff, he was very involved and very instrumental in getting everybody together. He was able to galvanize everybody. So he would have barbecues for no reason at all. It wouldn't even be a holiday. It would just be a random Saturday. But during the week, he calling everybody up. Hey, can you come through? I'm about to throw some stuff on the grill. Wooty whoop whoop.
That's
And then
dope.
everybody come through, and
that.
it was a good time. So yeah, it was a big thing. He was always hosting, always entertaining. Very supportive of my mother. My mother, for the longest time, she wanted to be a social worker. So she was in school. With both of them being very young, somebody has to hold down the fort, because they had my older sister and they had myself. We're 4 years apart. So while I was in school, I'm just thinking back on this, it's kind of crazy to say my mother was in school while I was in school, because she was still in her 20s. She's going to Hunter College. We're in elementary school, and she's working at the bank and working at a supermarket. There'd be times where they couldn't afford a babysitter, so my mother would take my sister with her to work and hide her under the cash register. just crazy stuff like that. But
Have to make it happen.
yeah, you got to make it happen. And then there were times where my father, he wouldn't work, and he would just take care of us. Or he would work at night. He would work overnight. He would hold us down during the day. He worked overnight, working in the toll booth, or as a traffic agent, you know, doing the whole ticket thing, or just even finding odd jobs, finding different ways to make money. But just even reflecting on that, that gave me a broadened perspective of like really what it means to be part of a unit. Because I could only imagine how difficult that must have been for him as a man to, you know what, I'm gonna stay home so you can pursue what you want to do and look after the children. My father did most of the cooking when he was growing up. Actually, my father's the one who taught my mother how to cook.
Wow.
Same.
Wow.
He taught her how to cook. But again, you know, I know that had to have been somewhat of a strain on him, you know, mentally, and also just for his ego, to feel like, all right, I'm the man, I'm supposed to be the one that's providing, and so on and so forth. But here I am, you know, I had things I want to do, and I didn't learn this till after he passed. But he wanted to go to school for audio engineering at a place called IAR. It's in Manhattan, the Institute of Audio Research. But he deferred his own dream so she could pursue hers. And then I was down here probably about last year cleaning up, and I found a couple of letters, couple of pamphlets. Apparently in like 1998, they had went on a retreat to try to reconcile their marriage. They on the brink of divorce, and that was some of the stuff that came up when I'm reading through it. And I'm like, wow, this is very interesting to have a new perspective of their relationship, because there were quite a few things that we just weren't privy to. My older sister and I, like, we just weren't privy to it. We knew at one point the relationship was a little bit tumultuous. It wasn't abusive or anything like that, but part of it was, you know, the compromise on his end. And for that resentment to grow, it's like, I had this thing I wanted to pursue, but I put it off, and now you're doing your thing, and you're the breadwinner, and you're a lot more secure than myself, and I'm still trying to find my place in this. What does that look like? You know?
So like,
with your woman kind of
to the ego,
wearing the pants, so to speak.
Yeah.
But she didn't want it to be that way. And then I started to learn about my mother and her feelings. And my mother's a very generous person, pretty altruistic by nature. But I also learned that she had some insecurity where she felt like she had to give more and give more and give more. And maybe that would give her some type of respect, and maybe it could attenuate some of the resentment. So just seeing that from them is just like that balancing act. No, I'm using my phone, baby. You gotta hold on. So that's helped me greatly. Like just having that whole experience, looking at that, just I have fond memories of. I was talking about this with my wife earlier. Just seeing them couponing and budgeting and doing things like that. They would do that, sit down and clip out coupons, go food shopping together. So I learned a little bit of everything from them, just like how to manage things, whether it be pecuniary or just even emotionally. Seeing my mother deal with my father's illness. He passed away from lung cancer. You know, he was 38 years old. My dad, he was 38 years old. So just seeing him wither away and seeing the way that my mother carried it, still going to work, still taking care of us. And in the year 2000, she just gave birth to my younger sister, Brittany. She's 12 years younger than me, 16 years younger than my older sister. Then also the year when my father passed, my older sister, she's turning 16 that year. So it's a lot going on. My mother has a newborn child. She's still going to work. She's back and forth between Beth Israel and hospice, you know, looking after my father, taking care of him. I'm about to go into high school. My sister's in high school. They already planning out her sweet 16. You know, it was just a lot for her to juggle. So just her resilience, her patience, and just being unwavering and just knowing. I think it might have been C that said something earlier in relation to what I said about, you know, preparing for the best, but being able to, hoping for the best, but preparing for the worst. Because it's unfortunate when life comes down on you that way and you want to just concede. But regardless of what's going on, time is going to pass.
Yeah.
And you got to keep living. And that's one thing I've learned from my mother, just seeing her is like, yo, regardless of what's going on, we got to keep living. We got to keep pushing on. We got to keep trucking. And from my dad to the point that Adriana made a couple minutes ago about allowing your children to see vulnerability. I got that from my father. It was it was during an unfortunate circumstance, because you know it's terminal at this point. It's stage 4. He's skin and bones, head done fell out. I remember just having to the roles being reversed when you're a young man or just a boy and you look at your father like he's Superman. It ain't nothing he can't do.
Yeah.
So to see him disintegrate in real time, it's something. It's very sobering. The roles get reversed. I remember when I'm a little kid, he's giving me a bath. Now I'm 11 years old, about to be 12, and he's too weak to bathe himself. So I got to give him a bath. I got to brush his teeth for him, help him go to the bathroom. One of the scariest moments of my life was seeing him have a seizure, like right in front of me. So having to just hold him and comfort him. This is a grown man, 38 years old. I'm a child, so having to do that. But then I also remember a few weeks before he passed away, coming home from school one day, he's on the phone with my Aunt Evie, and he is just bawling, just talking about everything from how he's feeling in the moment, how scared he was. He doesn't know what everybody's life is going to be like in his absence.
Yeah.
So I got to see my father as more than just a human, but just as a being having a human experience at that moment. To be able to express that type of fright, you know, it was something to see. So with all that being said, I got to learn a lot from them, take that experience and how, you know, I deal with myself every day, how I'm learning how to deal with my wife and ultimately with my children. You know, so it was got quite a bit from both of them. Through the good and the bad, everything in between. I got a lot from both of them.
The
How
learning
old were
part
you?
that you just said.
Again, I'm sorry. How old were you when your pops was going through all of that?
11.
11, you said.
Yeah.
Mm.
And
The things
it's a tough
that
time.
children remember at the age that you don't even think that they will remember
Yeah.
such details is crazy.
Yep, yep,
Mhm.
yep. Because my
Something like
son's
that is
11
hard
now.
to forget, though. It's hard to forget something like that.
Yeah, that's
because
true too. That's true too. But you know what I'm saying? Like, but kids remember. Kids remember.
Oh yeah, more than we think they do.
Yeah.
And you know what? What you
Mm.
just shared made me think about how being a family is a team, right? There's a team leader when we think about sports, but in the family, that leader switches. So you talked about how your father was the one that was galvanizing the activities, and when he was in his, he was in his 30 state, he was just captain of the ship. Then your mom had to take on that role as things went the way they ultimately did. And you even had to step in the role of leadership with those roles reversing, right? I saw that with my mom and my grandmother. She transitioned in November last year, and October rather. And before it happened, she went from being very lively, tending to her garden, walking around, to a state of she had to get in a wheelchair, had to be taken out of the bed, washed. And my mom is taking on this role, coming from America, go to Jamaica, and yeah, the roles do get reversed as we go through life. So raising children is more than we think about just them being a child, because we hope, right? We hope to see our children grow. We don't want them to pass before we do. So we hope to do right by them enough that they would do right by us when their time comes.
True indeed. And to that point, right? Like I was saying before about my father making certain sacrifices. It's one of the things that I leaned on to be able to keep myself in check. If I'm like, yo, the guy that I hold in such high regard and high esteem, if he was able to do it, I could do the same. Because when Taylor was born, I wasn't working at that time. Sandy's working at the school bus company.
Yeah, I remember.
We couldn't afford busing it. We went down to the office. They wouldn't give us one of those like a waiver or a voucher for childcare. So being that we couldn't afford childcare, you got to make a decision. You know. So the money that she was making, it was enough to hold us down. She paid the rent and paid for food and so on and so forth. But then I got to stay home with Taylor. And I ain't gonna lie to you, the first couple weeks it was very jarring, because before it was the other way around. I was working as a milieu counselor prior to that. So then now with me being at home with the baby, first 2 weeks it was miserable, but then after that, we got a little routine down. I throw her in the stroller. Hey, we out. We going for walks. We go to the record store. We doing whatever. And then just helping out around the house. So yeah, like being a team is extremely important, and vice versa. Like when Sandy was home, she was holding it down and then some. Like just even with the small things. So I gotta give her just so much credit, the utmost credit. Little things. I fall asleep with my glasses on. She take my glasses off, fold them up for me. Get my uniform out. We was both working at MV together at the bus company. She makes sure my uniform is where it need to be, my wallet, everything. It's just like, yo, it makes it so much easier for me, just having her. But being able to operate in that capacity is something that I learned from my parents, just seeing them model it for me. And then it turns and makes things so much easier to deal with the children.
I want to say you can see why I was prepared for you, Ant, because I did tell me about you, but I can see why you two are friends, why you're brothers, and the quality. Absolutely. You know what I'm saying? The quality. I mean, I'm extremely grateful, as I'm sure we all are, that you opened up and shared. Like, that was truly beautiful, everything you've just shared about your parents, you know, and it's all over you. And we need to hear the masculine, we need to hear men say these things, you know. And I think it's the realization of what it makes me think about is the realization that your parents are people.
The way that these stories of your parents, how they were still able to have community with each other. And then from what I'm even seeing with the both of you, I have to ask, while probably living in different places, I'm not sure, do you two still have community amongst each other, even as brothers, when it comes to helping each other with advice, or how y'all are as fathers, and just building off of each other in that capacity with helping raise your children as basically uncles? Do y'all share that in a way? And what is that like, having that community?
I would say so, but I would say it's more inadvertent,
Mm-hmm.
or something that's a little bit more organic. I don't think that it's a thing that's like forced or contrived.
Right, of course.
I would say in the biggest way, and I kid you not, I was literally just saying this to Sandy. Sandy's my wife. I always be talking about my wife. Pardon me. But yeah.
You, as you should.
Good husband.
Okay.
She in the background talking about, my wife is back there. But yeah, we were talking about, she was asking me, she's like, yeah, you gonna pull up to the Juneteenth thing with the acting. I don't know if it's a recital or a play.
It's a reenactment.
A reenactment. There you go. But we were literally talking. I was like, yo, he's one of the people that I look to in terms of just keeping your child involved in different things. You know what I mean? Like, Kai is an awesome kid. He's into like graffiti, like he was saying, taekwondo, skateboarding, going to various festivals and things of that sort, just keeping him entrenched in the community. So I look at him, I don't always express this to him, but I'm saying it now. I look at him, I'm like, man, it's part of the reason why when my kid came home and she was saying like, you know, I want to get into fencing, I'm like, yeah, you know what, I gotta get her involved in something. So now my daughter, she was into fencing. She just played in a rugby tournament last weekend. Wow.
Yes, that's
she was doing boxing. You know, she was doing boxing and just doing all types of stuff. But a lot of that is things that I've just observed just from watching him.
I would say the same. A lot of it is in that way where I'm observing things where we might just meet by happenstance in the parking lot of the elementary school that my son went to, and he's out there shooting around, and I'm seeing how he is with his son, and I'm like, yeah, okay, let me practice that with Kyrie, because sometimes I'm a little hard on him, or sometimes I could be a little bit more patient. So it is in that way where we're not just like trading war stories, but we're just observing each other. I think we could benefit from being intentional.
I was going to say the I word, being more intentional.
Yeah,
you had a little point about the whole community thing, but I didn't want to interrupt the flow.
Okay, I'm curious.
We're all a composite. You know what I'm saying? That's pretty much what we are of the community, whether it be the nucleus or extended. Community is pretty much, it's a microcosm of society as a whole. Like she was talking about being green. It's important for you to go out there and get that experience and to be able to mingle with different people and see how the world really works. Like within your neighborhood, you can get a glimpse of how the world works. The way that people politic with one another, the way that people exchange with one another, whether it be folks bartering or selling this or selling that. You got to go out in the world and you got to get lied to.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? You gotta have those interactions where they're fake. You gotta have those wholesome interactions. Like, you gotta experience all of it. Exposure is a major key, because like you were saying, Tone, it gets to a point where you grow up and you go out there and you're like, man, I've been living in fairy tale land. Some people just get so overwhelmed because they haven't experienced anything. They haven't experienced heartbreak. They haven't experienced true friendship. They haven't experienced anything outside of their small community. So you got to get out there into the community, out there into the world, just observe things, experience things. And another thing that you were saying before about just having a little dude do pull-ups, I can't even tell you how influential some of my dad's friends and my uncles, they've been on my life. Just different habits that I've picked up from different people, and good things too, positive things.
Exactly.
Learning not how to be prejudiced against people and just operating and viewing people through this lens of these, these preconceived notions. You hear about somebody who's involved in a certain line of work, let's say street pharmaceuticals, if you will, and you might assume that this person is just all bad. They're just a horrible person. But one of the people that took really good care of me as an adolescent was somebody that was involved in the street business. But this is somebody where when my mother was working late after my dad passed, I could go over his house. He cooked dinner for me. Take me and my friends here and there. Some of the homies' dads. Summertime, it's hot outside. What y'all want to do? Take us to the pool. Taught us how to drive. Taught us how to change tires. Just different things like that. Just being responsible. Yeah, like a real experience. That's why it's important to have that community. And I'm not joking when I say keep that little guy doing them pull-ups, because that's something that's going to serve him later on in life. You think about the crisis that a lot of us are faced with in America, just in terms of just various ailments and illnesses and so on and so forth. A lot of things that are associated with a sedentary lifestyle. He gonna get to a point in time where he's gonna be doing pull-ups, doing push-ups, calisthenics, be healthy, and be like, man, I got that from Aunt Tone. You know what I mean?
Yep. See what I'm saying? You just made my heart jump.
Seriously. I got books that I've gotten from people. I remember I was in a GED program, no less, and I got a book. Was it Soul on Ice, Eldridge Cleaver? That made me want to look further into Black history and civil rights and so on and so forth. Then that led me to reading a book like Visions for Black Men, Naeem Akbar. I got that from a friend.
What's the name of that one?
Visions for Black Men by Naeem Akbar. It's a really good book, very good book. But just having these various people around, my father, one of his best friends, expanded my palette in terms of just even just within the scope of hip hop. Every time I see him, he listening to De La Soul and Tribe Called Quest and so on and so forth. So then now I'm listening to this type of music. So then for me listening to that, now I'm looking at the liner notes. I'm looking at the samples. Now I'm getting into jazz. I'm listening to Weldon Irvin and so on and so forth. But I don't get that type of experience if I'm not exposed to these different ideas, a myriad of ideas. And then, so ultimately I say this, we're all an amalgam, and a mixture of ideas, ideals, values. We get our scruples, our moral compass. These things are guided and calibrated through these various people, through community. And just look at all of those words, the big C's, right? Like communication, communion, community, like all of these things. They all go hand in hand, and they play a great deal in our development into the day we transition. Even as an adult, we just continually getting things from community.
For sure.
So I
Bro,
think
you
that's
high
why
level
community is
too.
important.
I don't just say that. You high levelers.
I think I did say that before, though, right? I said I'm gonna bring somebody in, and he's no slouch. He definitely operates on that high level.